Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another podcast of What Moves You. Today we have a special guest. He is another one of our movers. He's like one of the legit OGs, I would say. Like some of these posts I was looking at will go far back. Mr. Josh Boyer is in the house.
Hell yeah.
And as per usual, Mr.
Bobby West. Hello, everyone.
Going to be in here for moral support and every now and then say a few things.
Maybe I'll say a few things. You know, who knows?
So if you're new to this show, we tell stories of people who have gone through our program and found success and overcome really big obstacles just for them or for people in general. Today, we have someone who has overcome some very big obstacles, and I'm genuinely excited and super appreciate you coming down here, Josh.
Yeah, for sure, man.
We've talked a little bit, just kind of getting to know each other here for the last 20, 30 minutes. I was like, I wish we were recording right now. So I hope that we can kind of bring back some of the things we were talking about right back into it. But let's just hear a little bit of history first about let's just jump in how you found MoveU first.
Definitely.
And then we'll go from there.
So when I knew I was going to have a 6 back surgery, I'd already had 5, and I was, addicted to every opiate you can imagine and whatnot with all the other surgeries. When I knew I was going to have the 6th back surgery, I'd quit all the opiates, and I was like, dude, I do not want to go down that road again. So I have to find a different modality that's going to work for me, where I'm not going to just get stuck in this like rabbit hole of like going to physical therapy and then going to pain management, and it just wasn't. I knew it wasn't going to work. So I started just doing some Google research, to be honest with you. And they're like, dude, what's a movement company that's like around here that can like help me? Like, I don't want to go through the traditional like Western medicine. And I don't know if it was on Instagram or Google where I found MoveU. I want to say it was Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out to Mike, and my goal was to recover from that back surgery without the use of any pain medication. And then at the end of that recovery, hike to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. And I wanted to like show other veterans and other people just in general, like what was possible when you set your mind to doing something and just do it. So I reached out to Mike and told him what my story was. And he was like, yeah, man, we'd love to like sponsor your recovery and kind of help you along that process. So I was like gearing up after the surgery to go to Kilimanjaro. Like it was ready to rock and roll. And I knew like physically I wasn't there yet. I wasn't ready for it. And so Mike sent me this message that was like getting kicked in the nuts. It was like, yeah, it was totally gnarly, but it's exactly what I needed. And basically what he said was that, we're trying to sponsor like your recovery, but we want to do that smartly. And you're going to go do this Kilimanjaro hike one time, and then you'll be done, and then your body's probably going to be broken as a result. Mentally, we have no issues with the fact that we know you could do it. You know you can do it. Everyone around you knows you can do it. But physically, it's just not a smart decision. And so don't fucking do it. Are we allowed to cuss on here?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, get that explicit. We earned it quick. That was like under 5 minutes in, we got that E. That's
nice,
beautiful.
Nice. Yeah,
let it all out now.
All right, cool.
We got it.
All right, cool.
Normally it's me. Finally.
So now he was just like, don't do it. Get your body where it needs to be before you go and do that. And it really resonated with me because like what he was saying was that like you're going to go once and it'll be one and done. But how about this becomes like a yearly trip for you where you take other people who are recovering from surgery, recovering from like terrible accidents or whatever, and take them up there and do the hike with them every year. And it just like, bam, it was like I said, it was like getting kicked in the nuts, but at the same time, it was like there was a sense of inspiration behind that message that really like lit a new fire underneath me for sure. And so, yeah, that was the story of it, like how I found MoveU and then kind of working through the program. And, I did it all without pain pills and stayed true to that initial mission. I haven't done Kilimanjaro yet, but that's still on the table for sure.
Sweet. So you basically how Mike got through to you is changing your perspective a little bit, like more the long play, the long game approach.
Definitely.
Which seems to be a lot of the people who come into our program they haven't realized that yet. They're just like, I want to do CrossFit. I want to do gymnastics. I want to do whatever my thing is, but my body just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
So that's we know that's usually the young man's game, the young person's kind of thing that they got to learn along the way. That okay, your body can't always do what your mind wants,
Right.
especially if you're moving improperly or lacking awareness in any one area. So let's now pull back to how did you become that person that ultimately needed MoveU? Like just from the jump of working out as a kid into the Air Force, all that.
So everything for me, like in the past, was instant gratification. Like I wanted to just meet things. I met everything from my mind. Like everything was like about like mindset. Everything was about like, oh, you can overcome this, you can be gritty and this and that. But in the process of doing that, I was completely breaking my body down, like completely thrashing myself. And although I think there is a lot of potent medicine behind the mindset piece, there's also something that's missing in that, and that's that you're not being smart about your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I was before MoveU, like I was not being smart with my journey at all. Like so, like I told you, 6 back surgeries, 6.
Mm-hmm.
So after every single surgery, I would go back to doing things the same exact way that I was doing them before the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was changing.
It's like the definition of insanity.
Totally. Definitely, dude. So, like, I would go back to the same job, working the same job. My posture would stay the same. My body movement would stay the same. I would go back to the same, bodybuilding mentality. I still had my encyclopedia of bodybuilding that I carried with me everywhere. And I had this idea of the way I was supposed to look. What was driving me.
Okay.
Everything was coming from the ego. Everything was like, I wanted to look a certain way. I wanted to, be in the gym. I wanted people to see me lifting 120-pound dumbbells. It didn't matter how I was getting those dumbbells up. It was just a matter of me doing them and being seen doing that. And there was a lot of ego behind that, especially after the back surgeries. It was like, oh, look what I can do. Watch me.
After. Okay.
Yeah, totally. And with the MoveU program, everything changed because, like we were talking about offline a little bit, like even wearing barefoot shoes. I never would have worn barefoot shoes to a gym, ever. Like in life, because it was like the style points for that are probably not that much.
So the toe shoe look isn't ever going to be a thing for you?
No, definitely not. Man. I was all about my Nikes with the raised heel. I don't know what the drop is on those, but like pretty gnarly. And I was telling Bobby I transitioned over to like wearing these barefoot shoes, and I started to see a drastic change in just the way I was feeling. And a lot of my, because of the back surgeries, I have like bad like neuropathy in my legs. Like so sometimes where I just can't feel my feet. Like they're very difficult to feel them sometimes.
So more numb rather than like
Totally.
hot or cold or
No,
pins
more
and
numb.
needles?
Yeah,
Okay.
more numb. So like I would be walking and I wasn't really feeling the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so that all changed when I started wearing barefoot shoes. Where I was like, dude, I
Really?
can actually feel everything.
So
And
it
so-
kind of turned on some of the
Totally.
that sensory feedback a little bit?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like I was gripping the ground a lot better. Hiking with barefoot shoes, like I was feeling every rock. And initially it was kind of painful because you're not used to that feeling because it's been covered up for so long. And then I crave it now. So like if I wear like separate, like I wore, was it Salmon's to do a hike, and my toes were completely jacked after.
Really?
Yeah, because I wanted to try. I was like, hey, let me try like these other shoes. I always want to try something new, and everyone's always talking about them. So I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And it was the worst idea ever. Not only did it hurt my feet, just my back and my hips. Like everything was all out of whack. Like after that, so it's like barefoot for me is like pretty much the way forward.
Yeah. So just
Yeah.
going back to, that's MoveU in a nutshell. That's fixing just about any problem. You got to like kind of start at the bottom, rock bottom. Whatever
Yeah.
it is. Like
It's like reverse
the
engineering.
foundation. Yeah. It's
like
like we got
going-
to.
Yeah, and going back to the basics and kind of redoing everything. And that's, I think, where a lot of people with this program and other programs that are out there, people think that like things are going to change for them overnight. It's like, listen, it's taking you 30 plus, 20 plus years to get where you are with the pain that you have, with the posture you have, and with all the issues that you have. It's taking you all those years to get there. It's going to take some time to like reverse engineer some of that and do it the proper way. And that's what I've learned through this program, especially, is patience.
Patience.
And I didn't have a lot of that patience before. And like I shared with you a little bit before the podcast, whether it be supplements or just body movements in general, it was like I was always hungry to like get to wherever I wanted to go like super fast.
Just
And,
just you were goal oriented
Definitely.
always, and never just. It was Bobby said it earlier. You were focused getting A to B, and you didn't care how to get there or what way or how it looked. Just getting there, basically.
Totally.
Okay.
And that was the same thing with
and looking good along the way.
Right.
Gotcha.
And then, so hiking Kilimanjaro, like in my mind with that was like, oh, I'm just going to go and do it because I said I was going to do it. I said within a year I was going to hike Kilimanjaro, so I'm going to do that. And like I said, mentally, I could have done it. I definitely could have gone up there and hiked that mountain. But what's the end game for that? You know what I mean? Like Mike was telling me, like, dude, you're going to do it one time and be like, okay, cool, I did it. Now what?
What value is it other than just saying it and doing it?
It was just an ego thing. You know what I mean? Like it was more like my ego telling me, like, oh yeah, I was able to do that, and kind of like a way to, present myself to the world as like this mental warrior and stuff. And I think there's a lot to be said for, like I said, for mindset. I mean, it's important, but there's so much more to it, to be smarter. I think as I've gotten older, I've really embraced like just being intelligent about the way you approach things. Like try and like you can have a goal, that's fine, but understand that like the path to success isn't A to B. It's like it's not like a straight line. It's not linear. So like there's gonna be all these different detours that you're gonna have to take to get where you want to go. And I'm willing to go down those detours as needed.
Yeah, so. It's just setting the goal of hiking Kilimanjaro and doing it. That is kind of along, in my opinion, like the fixed mindset of just, I'm going to do this just to do it.
Right.
And then there's the growth mindset of, well, I'm going to do this for the learning and the person I am on the other side of it. What can I take along the journey of preparing for it? And what can I ultimately learn from this and then share it with others?
Right.
And that's kind of like the growth mindset. And that's, I think all three of us, if we could impart something to our 20-year-old selves, would be a little bit of that. Like get away from that just now, and like think of the long play a little bit here of just having some patience and what can you get out of this process. So I wanna hit on, so you were very ego driven and in the gym putting on muscle. You got to
247 at my peak.
How tall are you?
6'1" ish.
So that's jacked.
247.
Just so anyone who isn't aware, that's a brick shit house.
Yeah.
I'm taller and was never even close to that weight. So props to that at the age that you did it, because that requires a lot of work as well.
Yeah.
So not obsessed. And I want to be sure that anyone listening to this, that there's usually two kinds of people. There's the people who don't have even enough to start something like this and get out of bed in the morning. Yeah. But then there's also the people that are kind of more like us. Yeah. Like, we will do whatever the fuck we need to do to get this done or to reach a goal. Yeah. But sometimes that isn't the battle. The battle for us is the patience. And so any guy who's like listening, who wants to put on muscle and wants to, but every workout they feel like they've been hit by a train, well, yeah, you might need to take a year off and then come back strong as shit, knowing how to move, and then just pack on healthy functional size. Yeah. So just I want to talk on that a little bit, because at the end of the day, aesthetics and how you feel in your body is important. Where that reflection in the mirror is going to be important. And if that is a goal of yours to change that, there is a quick way of doing that might work, but then there's a little bit of a longer, just a little bit, not anything crazy way of doing it, of where you learn awareness, learn alignment, and then you take that for the rest of your life, rather than lift, setback, lift, setback.
Yeah,
So,
there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of people that are like struggling right now. Because people reach out to me all the time, like on Instagram. They've seen my story, they heard it, and they're like, "Dude, how did you do that? How did you do a surgery without pain pills? How do you do some of the things that you do now, like with all the surgery? I'm in so much pain right now. I need to have surgery." And I wish that I could like impart like some knowledge. Like I came from a place of really bad like judgment of people that were like in that place, because I didn't understand, like I had been through 6 surgeries, so I understood like where they were, like where they were thinking, but I didn't know how to articulate it to them. Like, dude, this isn't going to change things for you, man. Like, you need to start with changing like how you're thinking about things first. If you can change that, you can change like the course of where your life is going to go. I promise you. Because like for me, like all those surgeries that I had, not one of them was like, oh, I had that surgery, now I feel so much better. Like, I'm so much better off now that I had that back surgery. They cut through my, my muscles in my back, and this last one cut through my stomach, and it's like, oh, I feel totally better now as a result. No, dude, it's a terrible, like, recovery. Like, you're never going to be the same after that. And I try to, like, impart that knowledge on people that are listening. Like, listen, think long and hard before you allow, like, anybody to cut into you, and change, if you can, change the way you think about things. The things you think about will change. And so, like, I had a guy reach out to me the other day, and he was like, I think I have to have surgery. I'm laying in bed. I go to physical therapy, then I'm laying in bed after this physical therapy. I can't do anything. And I was like, so what's the problem? And he's like, well, I'm in so much pain. And I was like, okay, but you're laying in bed and you're not doing anything about the pain. You're just laying there, like, after physical therapy. He's like, yeah. I was like, so that's part of the problem. You understand? Like, you're not moving. Like, motion is lotion. Like, you need to move. And he's like, well, I'm in so much pain. And I was like, pain's not life-threatening. And this is a message that Andrew gave me, actually, and was like, because I was getting down that having 6 surgeries, you get scared. You have a setback, and you're like, oh, geez, like, my leg's numb, or, oh, I'm having this pain, a sciatica down my, did I screw something up? Did I mess myself up? We're not as fragile as we like to believe that we are, and pain isn't life-threatening. And so Andrew, I reached out to him once, and I was like, dude, I don't know what's happening. I'm having this huge flare-up and this and that. And he's like, okay.
Cool.
And it wasn't like a minimizing thing. He was just like, listen, like, and it sounds silly to some people probably listening to this, but, like, him telling me that pain wasn't life-threatening changed the game for me completely. Really? So now when I have pain, it's like, no shit, I have pain. I've had 6 back surgeries, and, like, I'm moving my body in ways I probably haven't moved ever. So, like, I'm gonna have some pain every once in a while. But I'm also smart about that pain. Like I was telling Bobby earlier, we did I did this little movement clinic with a guy, and he had me take a softball, to kind of break up some hip flexor issues or whatever. And I put it in there in my, like, psoas muscle or whatever it was, and I was like, man, that kind of hurts. And I could feel, like, these shocks, like, going down to my feet. Okay. And I was like, oh, that doesn't, like, feel like that's right, like, I'm not really sure.
Pulled back on that one.
And so, of course, like, being the guy, like I used to be, some of that stuff was still there. So, like, yeah, no, I'll stay there. I'll stay with that. And, just kind of, like,
just tough it out.
Just breathe into it. And so now, for the last, like, 3 weeks, I haven't been able to feel my leg. And and I'm not scared of that, though. Like, before, it was like, I was so, like, oh, my God, what did I do? Like, this is terrible. But it's like, no, like, so I looked it up, was like, okay, like, what could that be? Okay, cool, did the process of elimination. Good to go. I was an idiot. That's what it boils down to. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, maybe change that up a little bit and, like, listen to your body a little bit more. Yeah. I think that's where a lot of people, they listen to their body, but in ways that doesn't serve them. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, my God, my back is hurting. I need to lay down. It's like, no. Like, your back, it's like, you're not injured. You're just hurting a little bit, you know? So I get a little passionate about that, so I apologize for
So let's talk about just a little bit of, just for the listeners, like, what surgeries did you get?
Okay. So, like,
there's 5, and then the 6th was no assistance whatsoever from pain meds.
Yeah, so, like, the first surgery was in 2005, I believe, 2004 or 5, and they were just going to do a laminectomy. I had 4 herniated discs. I don't know what the millimeters were or whatever, but there was 4 that were completely, like, herniated. And so they were like, yeah, we need to go in there. You need surgery, like, now. And it was at the point where, like, I couldn't put my right foot in front of my left. It would shoot down my legs. And left in front of the right, same thing, would shoot down my legs. I couldn't stand up straight very well. I was a mess. Okay. A lot of that, though, I was eating McDonald's every day, 5 double quarter pounders with cheese, and a bottle of White Zinfandel a night. I mean, so, like, my stomach was growing, and I was just getting huge. And, a lot of depression was going into that. So, like, that's where a lot of people, like, I don't want to go down another soapbox with this, but, like, a lot of things that I was doing for myself weren't helping my issue, And so the first surgery was to go in there and do a laminectomy, like, basically cut off the part that was herniated. So I left the hospital being like, oh, wow, I'm out of pain. I can feel my legs again. Like, there's no pain in my legs. Like, I'm amazing. I feel great. And I wanted to do, like, cartwheels out of the hospital because it had been, like, a year since I didn't have pain. So went home, and it was June 28th was the surgery. And so on 4th of July, I was at my aunt's house, and I was having a beer, and all of a sudden my head is, like, pounding, like, the worst headache ever. And I'm like, I'm taking narcotics. I only had one beer, and now my head's like pounding. Like I should not, like this shouldn't be happening. Something's not right. So I went to the ER, and like we need to do a spinal tap, like right now. So I'm holding my knees to my chest, and they're poking this needle in my back. Excuse me. And as they're doing that, I could feel like the incision kind of ripping open because I'm holding my knees so tight to my chest, and I just had back surgery. So I'm like, oh, dude, this is so painful. So they stick the needle in my back, and when they did that, he punctured my actual spinal cord.
Oh, wonderful.
So my whole body like jolted, and I was like shaking uncontrollably, like couldn't stop it. He's like, oh, you can't move. You can't. I'm like, dude, I'm not doing that. It's involuntary. Dude. Like,
Can't control it
I
anymore.
can't control it at all. And so like, oh, we need to admit this guy. He has meningitis. So they admit me, and 15 days after my first surgery, I had a second back surgery. And to be honest with you, I don't even know what, why, how, what they even did in the second surgery. I think it was like more laminectomies, maybe cleaning up some of the mess from the first surgery. Like, it didn't really, even to this day, it doesn't really add up to me. It's like, why did I need that second surgery? Like, it didn't make sense. I know I read the surgery report, and it was like they covered up that puncture wound and did some other things on my spinal cord.
But no infection or anything like that?
No,
Okay.
no meningitis or anything. So,
We're just going to go in again to see what's up.
Yeah, totally. So then the third surgery, I went back to work, kind of like did my thing. And then same thing, I was having like issues with numbness and pain in my legs. They're like, oh, because of the two surgeries so close together, you have a bunch of scar tissue that's basically like wrapping around nerves, and you have some more disc herniation. So we're going to go back in there and clean it up a little bit. So I did that. And then the fourth surgery, same thing. The fifth surgery, they're like, you know what? We've done enough surgery on you. Let's just fuse you. So I was like, okay. So, a lot of things, some things that I don't talk about or that I haven't talked about much is the fact that a lot of those surgeries weren't really so much about pain. I think from a mental perspective, an emotional perspective, I was looking for a way to like check out emotionally, a way to check out, from having to deal with life,
But also, like, are you passing off ownership basically onto other people at that point, like to the surgeons? Like, hey, you
Totally.
fix this. You're the professional.
Totally. Absolutely.
Okay.
So all of my beliefs around Western medicine were that doctors had all the answers.
Okay.
They knew how to fix me. Like, it wasn't me. I didn't have any personal accountability in this. It was like, no, they do. That was my thought then.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I had the surgeries, but a lot of it was like a way for me to be like, all right, cool. Like, I don't have to deal with life. I don't have to deal with my job, my marriage, with anything. I can just be completely checked out and all drugged up, and life will be good. And I didn't really realize some of that until like way later in life. Be like, dude, like, what was I doing? I could have avoided like most of these surgeries. So the fifth surgery, they fused me. When they fused me in straight back, where they had me, prone and, fused me that way. So there's no lordosis at all in my back. They fused me up, and I was good for 8 years. I had no pain. Like, I had pain, but it wasn't like too crazy. But then it started getting worse, where the pain was like getting like pretty bad, like almost to the point of unbearable. And during the process of recovering from the fifth surgery, my addiction was just getting further and like worse, with the opiates and benzodiazepines and Adderall, and I mean, you name it, I was taking it. Ambien to get me to go to sleep because I was so amped up on the Adderall, and then the morphine and the fentanyl patch and OxyContin, and
we talked about it earlier, but you're just numbing everything at this point.
Everything. I felt nothing.
You're numbing who you are. You're numbing your relationships. Just every day. You're numb.
Couldn't be present with anything, right?
No, not at all. When I look back on it, I'm like, how was I going to work? And how was I being a father? How was I being a husband? How was I doing anything? Because there's a large chunk of my life that I don't really remember because I was so fucked up all the time. And that was my normal. That was my quote unquote normal for me, was like just being totally doped up. And so I got to a point where I was like, after the fifth surgery, I recovered, and I was like, man, my addiction's really bad. I went through a divorce, and it really woke me up. I was like, dude, you need to like really reassess where you are. And so I quit everything cold turkey. I was like, I'm done. And I threw it all down the toilet.
So let's the 9 years.
9 years, yeah.
Of all of those for the most part.
For the most part, yep.
Benzos.
Yep. The benzos for sure.
Okay.
The pain pills, definitely.
Like Oxycontin?
The Adderall, yeah. So
Okay.
Oxycontin at any given.
So stuff you can literally die from.
Yeah. So
coming off of like
Oxycontin,
that.
methadone, fentanyl patch every 3 days. I would change that out. Morphine sulfate, typically. I had some Norcos I would take every once in a while, just to kind of get me over the hump, whatever that means.
Just it's
Yeah.
like a double cocktail. Like,
Totally.
whatever.
And then so I would be like, man, I'm kind of like down right now, so I need to like get myself going. I have to go to class, and so I would take an Adderall,
Yeah,
you know,
just
30 milligram Adderall. Yeah, let's get going. So I would be buzzing.
Pick me up.
Yeah, and then I would get home and be like, man, I can't sleep. I'm
sleep.
too wired. So I'd
Ambien.
take an Ambien. And it was just this cocktail for 9 years of like
Wow.
just doing that every day. And so I quit it all cold turkey and in 2011. And yeah, it was tough. It was like, man, it was like the hardest thing I ever did. Like,
And those effects lasted a year, you said?
it was like 4 months of everyday torture and then a year of like at least 3 to 4 times a week of torture.
Of just like the addiction, like I really would love to just go take this pill and
Totally.
numb something or
Yep.
get that feeling, that lack of feeling again
yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
That just.
And I was
quiet
starting to wake up a little bit, you know, from like it felt like I was like in a coma for like 9 years. And so like a lot of things were coming to my awareness as far as like relationships I had with people, like connections I thought I had with people that really weren't connections at all. It was just based on drugs and kind of like a clouded sense of judgment.
So you mentioned, I was just going to say that you mentioned cloudy. So my experience with those substances
Yep.
is the same. It was like, have you ever seen the Claritin Clear commercial?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
that
right.
was it. It was just like there's this haze over your life where you're not feeling. The days are kind of cloudy. Even if it's a beautiful day, you don't notice it.
Yeah.
And then if enough time goes by, you start appreciating being in the moment. You appreciate the sun, the breeze, the people in your life, like the relationships that you're having. Like that was it. Just kind of pulled back the veil of everything you've been numbing.
Yeah, I'd gone through 9 years of just being just a shadow of myself. Like I was just kind of like just an empty box, like walking around aimlessly, you know, and not feeling anything. And the connections I had, the only person really for me during that time, my son, like even with him, it was like I was so absent-minded that it was just like we didn't really have that big of a connection during that time. My grandma was the only one that could like get through to me and like kind of
Really?
reason. Yeah, totally. And that's the only one that I felt like a strong connection to during that time. And so when I quit everything, like all these things started coming up for me. Like, dude, like a lot of it was like around like how I was failing in my relationships, especially with my son. So I needed to address a lot of that. And so I started doing a lot of work, a lot of inner work of like, dude, like let's get to the bottom of like what the core of the issue is, you know? And to be honest with you, I didn't even know if I was in pain anymore. You know, like I got to a point where it's like I'm taking so many drugs I don't even know if I'm in pain anymore. So when I quit
You're
everything,
that
it's
numb.
like
Yeah, you're that numb. Am I even in pain anymore?
Right.
Wow.
so I realized that the pain was manageable. It wasn't terrible. And the emotional pain that I had as a result of having to like basically make amends for all the damage that I had done, that was the hardest part, I think, for me. But yeah, so I got off all of it, and then it was good for like 8 to 9 years, and some of the same issues started coming back, and so I was like, man, this is not good. So I went and saw a surgeon and multiple surgeons, and they all kind of said the same thing, you know, like, oh, dude, like your back is fused and straight back, it's tearing up the disc above the fusion, blah blah blah. This is how we're gonna fix it. I'm like, okay. So I bought into it as a way of like, okay, if they're going to fix like my anatomy, the way that it's structured, maybe it makes a little sense to me, but I'm not going to go back down the opiate addiction stuff, you know? So I agreed to do the surgery. I said, okay, I'll do it. And they went through my back. They took out the old hardware that was there. They sawed through the old fusion, took 2 or 3 pieces of my spine out, did an osteotomy. Took those out, temporarily closed my back up, flipped me over onto my back, opened my stomach, put 3 wedges in between 3 different levels.
Just move the organs.
Yeah, move the organs out of the way.
Yeah,
move them
just
out.
move
Yeah.
those. That's not going to do anything.
Yeah. So they put the wedges in, and so it gave me the curvature in my spine that should have been there, whatever. Put a little cage in, sewed me back up, flipped me back over on my stomach, opened my back up, and then put new rods and screws in. And, 12-hour like operation. It was supposed to be done in 2 days, but there was a scheduling conflict, and they were like, we'll try and get it done in a day. And I'm like,
Wow.
Roger that. Let's
Expedited process.
Yeah,
Yeah, please, hurry up.
Let's get it done. So we did it, and
Wow.
I told my wife, I was like, you know what, I'll take the drugs they give me in the hospital, but when I leave the hospital, I'm done. Like, I'm not taking another drug. And so I took the drugs they gave me while I was there for 3 or 4 days or whatever it was. And then the minute I left, I still carry them in my backpack with the seals still on them.
Cool.
Just to, like, everyone's like, dude, why do you, like, especially addicts are like, dude, why would you do that? That's terrible. And I'm like,
it
gives me power. You know,
Yep.
it's powerful for me to look at those pills and be like, I don't need you.
You don't have any power over me.
Right.
I'm keeping you sealed.
Yep, for sure. So, I did the whole thing at home without any pain pills whatsoever, just water. I didn't smoke weed. I didn't do any holistic. Like,
How was that?
The first 3 weeks was tough.
Okay.
I had to practice a lot of mindfulness.
Okay.
I think pain is largely, if not all, stored in your mind. It's all how your mind operates with that pain.
Any tips on that of like what did you focus on? Because usually it's not focusing on the pain.
Yep.
So what did you focus on?
I did a lot of Zen meditation.
Okay.
So like basically what I would do is like I would quiet my mind for segments of time. So like I would literally like get my mind to be completely black. It was like completely shut off where I wasn't thinking at all. And I would let my body do whatever it was going to do. Like I was like, if my body's going to do what it's going to do, it's going to heal. It's going to do whatever it needs to do. I was reading Dr. Joe Dispenza, You Are the Placebo.
Yeah.
So I was reading that book as well. And so I believed, and sometimes they say like, oh, you have to see it to believe it, but sometimes it's like you have to believe it to see it. And for me, I believed that like if I set my intention of healing holistically and naturally, that my body would do what it's intended to do. And I don't need drugs to get me there.
Exactly.
And so, I would just quiet my mind, and I would do it in increments, sometimes of like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And the nights were the hardest for me because everyone's asleep. It's dark. You're alone in your pain and your struggle, and you're having to get through the night. You know, it's like, so I always tell myself, okay, it's dark. The sun's setting. Okay, now everyone's in bed. I don't want to wake up my wife. I don't wake up my kids. I'm just going to lay here and like figure this out. So I'd have this mental like battle like going on. And so I would wake up for the first 3 to 4 weeks. I would wake up every single morning, like just drenched in sweat. Like I had ran like a marathon in the Serengeti.
So you are in fight or flight. You
big
are
time.
in
Yeah.
pain.
My parasympathetic was
Yes.
like on fire.
Okay.
I did a lot of breath work.
Okay. That's what was my next question was just the breath.
Yeah, I did a
Because
lot,
that's it,
a lot,
right?
a lot.
It's
Yeah.
whatever you're focused on, the mind's eye.
Yep.
Like for me, it's white. I always focus on white because
Yeah.
then I can see the thought, I can see the picture better.
Yep.
For whatever reason, I focus on white, but then it's the breath.
Yeah, for sure. So I was really like going deep with like a lot of my breathing. I did a lot of Wim Hof breathing as well.
Interesting.
And it was kind of just getting my system like recharged and stuff. The minute I would do like a Wim Hof breath work session or whatever with myself, I would usually sleep a little bit better that night. So I was like, oh, this is working. But there were moments, man, when I would get up in the morning and I would go to take a shower or whatever. I would have my wife like stay in the bathroom with me because the pain was so bad that it's like blackout pain. You know, where it's like if you
hit
move
the
a certain way,
fucking
it's like
deck.
boom, you just hit the deck. Like it's not even, it's like uncontrollable. You can't like, I wasn't going to be able to stop it, you know?
Okay.
So I would just hold on to something and kind of like get my mind like ready for it. And luckily I didn't pass out any of the times, but it was like where you have these flashes of like black, you know, because it's like it's so bad. But yeah, I got through it and here I am telling the tale about it. Yeah.
Love it.
So my goal, honestly, man, is to let people know that a lot of the stuff that you're going through, the suffering, you're creating it for yourself, you know, and it sounds like maybe esoteric or a little arrogant for me to say that, like, oh, and people want to feel validated. I'm in no way am I trying to minimize what people are going through. What I am trying to do is realize that there's hope out there for you. And I think that hope is in learning how to train your mind to deal with some of that. And for me, like, if I could do it, like, I really do, I know it's cliche, but, like, if I could do it, anybody could do it. But I really do believe that. I mean, that was a major, major operation. And to do that without any pain pills, like, it doesn't make me special. It just makes me aware that, like, what's possible. And if it's possible for me, it has to be possible for other people. And especially the people who are struggling with, like, opiate addiction and with, like a lot of these people I know where they are because I've been there. And it's like, you're just numb.
Yep.
You're numb. You don't even know if you're in pain anymore. Believe me, you don't. Like, the pain that you're feeling is mostly psychological.
Yeah.
It's not physical. So, Anyway.
No, it's great because if let's just say that the story that we're trying to tell, if pain, whatever it is a spectrum.
Yeah.
We've told a lot about the people who have had 1 or 2 surgeries, or they've been on one end of the spectrum. And I would say, I don't know if I'll ever talk to someone who is as far on the other side of the spectrum as you. If that many surgeries, a decade of drug abuse. Would you say drug abuse?
Totally.
Just abusing? Okay.
Definitely.
Because you're using it way past what
It's intended.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you're numbing life at that point, not just the pain. Because you don't even know if you have the pain.
Correct.
So that's why I love having you speak from having been there.
Yeah.
Because when Bobby and I try to speak to like the almost kind of the what could have been.
Yep.
Now we have you went down that road.
Yeah.
And you're saying the same thing of it's on you. You have to own it.
Yep.
And it's also whether it's just nagging to where you're unproductive at work or you don't want to get out of bed or hit the deck blackout pain, there are ways in which to solve that inherently in your own mind.
We have all the answers internally. And I think that's where a lot of people, myself included, have failed dramatically, is by outsourcing our safety, outsourcing our sense of like
I love that.
well-being. You know what I mean? It's like, why you outsource it? You have it all inside of you. You have all the answers. You don't need it outside of yourself. And I think people are just looking for how to end their suffering. But if they dug a little deeper, they could find that answer that I found. You know, and it's my hope that hopefully by sharing my story, people it's believable. Like, I'm not lying to you. I'm not selling you snake oil. I'm not trying to sell you anything.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to
story.
Yeah, I'm just trying to help people understand that like it's possible. And a lot of it too, that a lot of people don't talk about with these kinds of injuries, like having like all the back surgeries. There's an emotional piece that a lot of people don't like to talk about. But they're doing more studies now to prove that like people who have lower back pain, a lot of it, is from sitting too damn much, you know what I mean? And you're shortening your hip flexor muscles and things like this.
The mechanical aspect.
The mechanical aspect is there, but there's also an emotional piece, and they're showing that like a lot of emotions and grief and all that is stored in your lower back.
Yep.
And so it's like, it's interesting. Like, I had a terrible upbringing. Like, I had a bunch of stuff I wasn't processing. I was just bottling up.
Coping mechanisms.
Right. And that's where all of my surgeries were my lumbar spine. So for me, it makes perfect sense as to why that was happening. And it almost in a way feels like I kind of manifested a lot of that into my life. And it may sound like airy-fairy and esoteric to a lot of people that are listening to this, but there's truth behind it. There's a lot of truth behind it. That if you really start digging a little deeper with what you have going on in your body, a lot of it is going to be associated with what you have going on mentally and emotionally. There's a mind-body connection.
It's all connected.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Can I say something to that?
Definitely.
100% connection with your mindset to what you're feeling physically. And I went through it myself, having struggled for chronic pain for 5 years. And I think it is something that people who fall into that chronic pain category, that it gets into their head and it continues to build and even increase the physical pain that they feel, just trying all these things like the surgeries, going to the chiropractor, going to physical therapy, trying all these different massages, all these different things to try to get that instant relief, when really they're just not listening to what their body's trying to tell them. That pain's a signal that needs to be there to be like, hey, you need to improve something. You got to address it, just like your stomach growls when you're hungry. Your body's telling you, hey, something's hurting. Let's find the solution to improve that. And instead of, I did it myself, like trying to be like, hey, you fix me. I don't know what's going on.
Quick fix.
You gotta do that deep dive within yourself, explore different areas of your body, and find out why that pain's happening, so that you don't have the additional back surgeries, the additional treatments, and just kind of
find the root problem.
Yeah, kind of like push off the solution by these temporary fixes.
Yeah, there's no accountability there, and I think that's part of. I haven't shared this with anybody yet, actually. The last 6 months, I had this issue where the center of my back was just totally jacked. I'm like, dude, what is going on here, dude? This is it was getting to the point where it was unbearable. This is every day, and any kind of flexion in my back, I would feel this like just pulling like terrible pain. And I'm like putting my shoes on. I'm like, dude, this is not good. But again, I was hearing Andrew like a little angel on my shoulder, like, pain is not life-threatening, Josh. I mean, his voice isn't like that. It's way more angelic. Sorry, Andrew. But anyway, I was like, I kept hearing him tell me like, the pain's not life-threatening. Don't trip about it. It's all good. And so that got me through like some of the hardest days where it was really hurting. But like I told you, I went to that men's retreat, and like, dude, like they opened up this container inside of me that like had probably never been opened. And, dude, like just all this stuff came up for me, like just emotionally, like everything I felt like I was like cracked wide open.
And well, you mentioned like an emotional, you were crying.
Oh, dude,
like,
I was
sobbing right?
like a baby. Yeah,
so you had no different than a massage releases a knot in your tissue.
Yeah.
An emotional release, it can be more powerful sometimes
totally.
if you've never had one. If you're 15, 20 years of just suppressing,
Yep.
tight compression and suppression.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, it's just shortness of breath, tight. Yeah, that's probably going to result in some issues, some pain.
Totally.
So if you release that, you get that weight off your shoulders emotionally. And guys, that's a hard sell, and that's why it's a male only retreat, correct?
For sure. So like he does work. The guy that facilitates it, Shems, is an amazing.
Yeah, shout him out so people.
Shems Hartwell. So
Shems
he does
Hartwell.
Empowered Loving is the name of his company.
Cool. Empowered Loving.
And he has if you go to Shems Hartwell on Facebook or Instagram, you can see him there too. But he does the Men's Passage, and the Men's Passage is absolutely incredible as far as like getting men to learn how to feel again, you know, and like
or for the first time.
Or for the first time. And for me, for sure, like I forgot like what that even was. I mean, as kids, like you have it there, and then all of a sudden like it gets clouded and kind of like glossed over by society or by your parents, whatever. And that was like one of the biggest awakenings that I had at this last retreat, was that I was doing the same things that was done to me, I was doing to my son, my oldest. Whereas like I wasn't allowing him to feel his emotions. It was like, what are you crying about? Stop crying. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, he's crying because like he's a sensitive soul. You know what I mean? He's not just being a baby. Like he's showing emotion, which is important. Like who am I to like not honor that? Like what a shithead dad, you know? Like, and so like I have this awakening, like, dude, I need to make amends to him. Like that's not cool at all. But having these emotional releases for me changed my body. Like I don't have that pain in my back anymore. I'm like, wow, imagine that. It's all like gone. And so I think that's where like I want to help people, not only from the MoveU standpoint, where it's like your mechanics are extremely important, but there's another mindset, emotional piece that needs to be addressed. Because a lot of people that are suffering, like I said, you're creating it yourself by either holding on to stories that don't serve you anymore, holding on to emotions that you don't know how to process, and not having the support around you to have the freedom to do that. And that's the biggest piece. And for me, that's what MoveU has done for me, is it gives you a community of people where it's okay to have my shirt off and I can feel completely vulnerable and not feel judged by that. And I'll be like, oh, geez, like Josh, look at his love handles, geez, you know, like, oh man, like
what's the first step? It's vulnerability.
Yeah, it's like, look at that dad bod, you know, and that's kind of like,
hey, that's in now, all right?
Yeah, it's a new thing, right? So it's been a cool piece, like having that support group, and that's like, if I could sell MoveU toward other men, like if that would be my sell. I was like, listen, what if you had this community of like people, not just men, but men and women that wholeheartedly support one another? Like there's nobody in there that's like catty and trying to be like, you know, this ego driven, like, oh, let me show you. It's like, I would put videos in there and like instantly like Bobby or whoever would like be responding to me like, hey, if you critique this or do that, whatever. But it was all from a place of love, not from a place of judgment. And so for me, that's been the best part of that community for sure. And that's kind of what I found with Shems too, is like, that's what makes it so powerful is because like everyone there is in support of one another.
It's a support structure you found,
Definitely.
which no one teaches us how to create support structures in our lives. Like when you start a new job, you should try to find the people that you get along with, that support you and you support them, or whatever new thing that you're doing. Like try, whether it's nowadays with the technology, that can be online. I mean, if we get as much as we do from technology, why can't we get things like that? Why can't we get support?
Right.
And that's just, again, I mean, if anyone's listened to one of these podcasts, we've talked about the power of the community aspect of you aren't in this alone. There is someone in the community who's had the exact same problem as you, who can now help you get through it and give you tips and tricks and just the mindset required to get there. And I've always just I've looked at it before as like try to simplify it as much as possible, but like it's heads or tails on a coin. Like heads is literally heads, like your mind and emotional state, and then tails is the body. Right. But you have to hold on to it, like to hold on to your lucky coin. That's support. Like it's in your hand, it's in your pocket at all times. So it's just like you need all three. It's the foundation of growth, really. And it goes back to as old as we are, is the tribal communities. Create your tribe, create your support structure, and we know that healthcare doesn't have that.
Oh,
and that's
definitely not. Here's a number. That's kind of like where I think a lot of people fall off the wagon. There is like you're putting you're shifting, like we said, the accountability to somebody else. Like, okay, like I have no skin in the game here. I'm just going to go to this doctor. He's going to totally fix me. That's going to be good to go, and they're going to give me some exercise they want me to do when I get home, and that's supposed to be totally normal and good.
There's no investment, and there's no ownership.
No, not at all. It's just a way to, like, for them to make money. And I'm not saying that doctors are not out there to help people, because I think a lot of them get into that profession to help people.
Yeah, I always try to. I think that I'll ask you this. So what we've mentioned on the podcast before is that usually a market is going to respond to the demand. We demand a quick fix, so where did the healthcare industry go? A quick fix.
100%.
So if we start demanding, no, I want you to pay attention to me, and I want my doctor to know my name, and maybe a doctor has 100 patients and knows them all, like back to the family physician. Yep. Well, if we demand that, it will eventually happen. It's just I want to know, what is your point of view? Do you think that healthcare has facilitated our demand of the quick fix, or and then that profit model, right, or was it kind of just destined to go this way?
I think it's probably 75-25. 75 of it, I think we've facilitated on our own. Like, we've manifested that by just needing that quick fix and instant gratification. I think it's been go for most people. Like, they're just on this mission to join a rat race and go to work and then go home and then try to spend some time with their kids, and then they go back to work the next day, and then they die. They retire and they die, and they're just numb the whole time. And so doctors were there just kind of like keep the Band-Aids going. Like, here's your
WD-40 and duct tape. Keep going.
Keep going.
It's like the NASCAR. It's just go back out.
Yeah, I think we created that, but I think a lot of that too was created by just the consumer mindset, of needing to have more, keeping up with the Joneses, this and that. So there is a profit piece to that is that it's driven by, but I don't think it's wholeheartedly I don't think it's all on one side or the other. Yeah. I think we've created some of it, but I also think there is another side of that that's even having babies. It's like, oh, have your baby, okay, get out of the hospital, you need to fill that bed. It's like that's atrocious, man. That's not cool at all. So I have a lot of feelings about it. The way that
you went through it more than most. So,
So it's kind of like a feels very disingenuous, you know what I mean? Like, where it's like they want to get you out of there as fast as possible. And it's not even it's on their timetable. It's not, you don't even get to set the timetable.
Sometimes it's on the insurance company, making them get you in and out because they need 70 people in a day.
Right. And they know what your insurance is going to approve or not approve. So it's like, it just seems like a very skewed kind of just not a system I want to be a part of.
Yeah, so try to avoid it at all costs. Don't jump right in for the first option.
Definitely not, man. If I could caution anybody, that's going through okay, I have a back issue or an ankle issue or a shoulder issue, start addressing how your body moves. Get to the core of that problem. Not you don't just hyper focus on the pain that you're having. Mm-hmm. Where is that pain coming from? It has to come from somewhere. I'm not saying it's always going to be emotional. It could be purely mechanical. Yep. So address some of that. Work with a body movement expert like MoveU, or work with, go try acupuncture, go try cupping, go try scraping, go try everything before you let them cut you. Yeah. If you could avoid that at all costs.
And coming from you, that has a very large weight.
Yeah, man. It's I wish my wife and I were talking about this last night. She's like, do you think you'd have ever had back surgery if you knew then what you know now? Would you have ever had a back surgery? No. Duh.
You could have given me a program that just required a little bit of work, and I could have fixed all of this and not gone down this path.
I never would have gone down the path of surgery. And it pains me to say that, to be like, dude.
Because it's also made you who you are, too.
Right. So it's like I wouldn't change anything as far
Right.
as like, dude, my life is where it is because I went through the things that I went through. Like my experience shaped me, largely shaped who I am. But if I could do it all over again for another person in my shoes, like if it was my son that had the same issues, like if I could help him and guide him, it'd be like, dude, do not have that surgery. There's ways to avoid that. And like even looking like at where my life was when I had my first back surgery, I'm like, oh, dude, like I told you, like 5 double quarter pounders and
there was so much you could have done.
So much I could have just changed, even just little minor
just for
tweaks.
inflammation, just
Right.
no more McDonald's.
Right, I
Who
could have
knows?
changed a lot of different things that could have helped, and I was so just eager to like just get that quick fix, instant gratification. Like, I needed to fix now, and yeah, as a result, I went down the road that I went. So.
All right, so the majority of this podcast so far has been the past. So let's kind of look forward a little bit. What have your life lessons, has MoveU, just everything you've been through now, like what are you working on? What are some of your passion projects that you're doing with your life now?
Definitely. So I started a podcast after after this last back surgery, and I called it My Backstory. Okay. It was a play on words, but it was at the same way. It was like, getting people to share their stories and kind of open up. And I had no idea where that was going to go. I had no idea how that was going to turn out. I was traveling all over the country, interviewing incredible people, large majority of them being veterans, sharing their stories, and it was awesome. What I was finding is that most of these people that were sharing their stories were opening up so much, like sharing things that like most people would never share, they'd be afraid to share it. Mm-hmm. So I felt a strong pull to like change that, change the name of the podcast and the direction of it. So I changed it to Getting Real with Josh Boyer because I wanted my name like kind of associated with it. I felt that was important, but the Getting Real piece was the most important to me because it was like, that's what people are doing. Mm-hmm. Like, they're getting real. They're like opening up. And when people are opening up and then sharing their stories, you're giving other people the freedom to do the same. You're giving other people the permission to like be vulnerable as well. And for me, it feels like you're setting this wave, this ripple effect out into the world of positive change. And I think that's where a lot of my issues came from, being all bottled up. I'm like no longer, I don't want to live my life that way. So hopefully by me sharing my story authentically and just with true vulnerability, it's getting other people to do the same, and then they could live their life more fully and feel like they're showing up in the world as a better human. Yeah. So my passion project right now is definitely, the podcast is still going. Like I said, I changed the name to Getting Real with Josh Boyer. And at one of the last retreats, I met an incredible dude who owns a marketing company up in the Bay Area. And we decided that we wanted to start a program, like an online-based program for veterans. Because I feel like the veteran community, myself included, when I got out, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I was kind of floundering. I had been told what to do. I had been told when my appointments were. My life was kind of planned for me when you're in the military. And when I got out, I was like, dude, what do I do? I mean, I guess I'll just like go to like use my GI Bill, take some classes, and kind of figure out what my passion is based on some of these classes I'm taking. But I didn't know like what my passion was. I didn't know what my purpose was outside of the military. And I think a lot of guys that are getting, and girls that are getting out of the military, they don't even know what their passion is. They don't know what their purpose is, because inside the military, your purpose is given to you. Mm-hmm. Like, your mission is given to you. Like, you know what your purpose is. You know what your mission is. But when you get out, it's like, what is that? What do you identify with anymore? So we wanted to create, and we are creating this community to help people transition out of the military better. I mean, we all go through the TAPS program when you get out of the military. It's Transition Assistance Program. Okay. But it's such a large amount of information in such a short amount of time that it's hard to retain all of that. Mm-hmm. So we want to create a community to help people to, like, just the basics, like how do you get a job? Mm-hmm. And how do you build a resume properly? How do you like build a company if that's what you want to do? A lot of these veterans are like, they don't want to work for somebody else that's not in their wheelhouse. They would rather work for themselves and use the amazing experiences they've had in the military and parlay that into a successful business. Mm-hmm. But like for me, it's like, I didn't know how to do that. Do I start an LLC? Am I a sole proprietor? Do I do an S Corp, C Corp? Like, how do I do all that stuff? How do I do my taxes? Do I need to have a logo? Do I need to have a website? Like, there's all these questions that I didn't know the answer to. So I was just kind of like, fake it till you make it type of deal, like, oh yeah, I guess I'll open up a website. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll pay $800 a year for this LLC that I'm never going to use. And just all these different things that I just didn't know. I thought I needed an LLC so I can get sponsorships for the podcast. I was just misinformed. I was ignorant, So my passion project right now is creating this community for a bunch of veterans to come in where it's full of like-minded people, coaches, mentors, to help these veterans do whatever it is they want to do. Like, find what their passion is. If you ask most people in the world, like, what are you passionate about? I don't think people can answer that. Most people don't know. Like, what are you passionate about? I don't know.
You have to search.
Right.
No one, very few people, if any, maybe when you were a kid, you picked, firefighter.
Right.
But no, you have to look. Yep. And looking is also scary because you're going to probably go and fail at something. You're like, oh, no, that wasn't it.
Yeah.
So what's that called?
LifeAfterServing.
LifeAfterServing.com. Can you find it?
Yeah.
Sweet.
LifeAfterServing.com is the website. It's up right now. It's still being worked on, because we haven't dropped the actual course and stuff like that. So we're going to do a pre-sale and get people to sign up if they're interested. And we're super stoked on it because I think it's going to turn into a community of I think there's a lot of veterans out there that are maybe either envious or jealous or scared of another veteran's success. Don't get too successful. Let me discredit that guy as much as possible and tell you what a piece of shit that guy was in the military, outside of the military, or whatever. And for me, it's I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? I want to create a community where we all help one another. Sure, there's some bad apples in every community. It's bound to happen. But as a whole, we should be supporting one another. Yeah. We should be helping each other any way we can. Not just the veteran community, but just humans in general. You know what I mean? I think we're built that way, but we've lost our way a little bit.
Yep.
And so hopefully by building this community, I can help a lot of veterans find their way again and build a supportive community. Yeah.
It's beautiful, man.
Yeah, definitely.
And how is that, just that project in your day-to-day, having something like that to work on? What's that doing for you?
It's fascinating because I'm learning so much in the process, you know what I mean? Just by pulling in the content that we're pulling in, creating videos, I was so geeked out by getting in front of a camera. I would put a camera in front of me and I would forget how to speak English. It was completely dude, what am I even saying right now? So my wife was upstairs and I'm doing the first video or trying to, and it was 155 takes or something like that. And I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. I would be stuttering. I couldn't get my words out. I was like, this is terrible. So the process has been really for me, opening up, being vulnerable, just being authentic and throwing it out there. And yeah, you might not say things the right way the first time around, but it is what it is,
Getting real.
And then the other, yeah, totally, right? And the other part for me, I had a job offer on the table 2 days ago.
Okay.
And, there was a old elevator company that, I used to work for, and they were like, hey, you want to come back in the industry? And financially, it made perfect sense. I was like, dude, I can go back and make good money, and I would have better benefits for the family and a company car with a gas card and all these securities put into place where I would be totally set. And so I've been working with Shems, and one of the things he said was okay, let's pretend that you have an elevator in your mind where you're thinking right now. Okay, now take that elevator down into the lobby, into your gut, where all the food is and everything else is. How do you feel being at that job again? How do you feel being back in that industry, dealing with the customers, responding to emails and phone calls and this and that? Do you feel passionate about it? How do you feel? What responses are you getting? And it was a really a visceral response. I felt nauseous. I felt I was completely out of alignment with what I'm interested in. What my passion is, what my purpose is in life. I was out of alignment with all of that. And so I turned down an over six-figure job to build this project. And I don't share that to brag. I don't share that to say, I was going to make six figures. And this. I share that because for me, being in my purpose and doing what I'm passionate about is so much more important than just chasing money. It's so much more important to me than I needed to learn. And that was my mantra this morning. I do a meditation every morning, and I say a mantra while I'm meditating. And it was breathing in, I source my own safety. That's what I was breathing in. And what I was breathing out was I let go what no longer serves me. And so for me, sourcing my own safety is finding ways to be creative, finding ways to make ends meet creatively that are in alignment with who I am and what I am. And so I turned that offer down, and it felt like scary at first,
Yeah.
you know, like very scary and kind of like, oh, dude, like what did I just do? But my heart was like, you did exactly what you were intended to do.
Yeah.
You did exactly what you were meant to do. And I really do believe that this community that we're creating is gonna make a huge impact, not just in the world, but like even like financially. I think it's just when you're in your purpose, things just fall into alignment the way they're supposed to.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that he had you kind of get out of your head for a second and go literally into your body and just feel.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy. Oh, it makes really good sense and it's comfortable on paper.
Yeah.
But when I think about it, is how does it make me feel? No,
No.
that's not right. Yeah, sure. Does it check some boxes? Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Sometimes, depending on what situation you're in, you might have to check the boxes for a year.
Yeah.
You might have to
Yeah.
for your family, for your responsibilities. Yeah, of course. But you can always come back to that.
Yeah.
And so it's just it's timing is also a variable that you always have to kind of play with as well.
Yeah.
So it's just that chase down your passions and just make sure you're being responsible about it as well.
That's why with this community, the first part of the community that we want to do is like get people to like just go get a job first, right? Like you need to be practical.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like luckily, like I have income coming in to where like I can pay my bills.
Okay.
This job was gonna be a way to like pay my bills and have a shit ton of money like left to like do the things I want to do, but I would never have time to do them because
Exactly.
I'm
That's
stuck,
the
you know? So it's like
trade-off.
it's like, nah, this isn't for me. And like just thinking about like being away from my wife and my kids, you know, as much as I was going to be with this job, the traveling, like what that was going to do to my body, you know what I mean? Like being in my car, like sitting down for all those hours. Like I just started doing all the math and I was like, the long-term play for this, like just doesn't make sense for me. And I'm just not going to do it. And I think they were shocked, actually, when I declined. You know,
Really?
I was like, I appreciate the opportunity. I wish you tons of success.
They come back at you with more money?
No, actually, to be honest, this is the truth. I countered them with asking for more money because I wasn't 100% in on declining it.
Okay.
I wasn't like, it wasn't a hard yes. It was a hard yes for me spiritually, but like mentally, like it wasn't a hard yes for me yet. So I countered and asked for more money. And they came back and said, we can't meet your salary requirements. And it was like, for me, it was like, oh, thank you.
That's another
And
another
it was
sign.
just another sign of like, dude, this is not what I'm going to do. I did that because I wasn't totally sure yet. And when they came back, we can't meet your salary requirements. It was like, there was no like back and forth negotiation. I was like, good, I'm out.
Thanks for making this even easier.
For sure.
Great.
So I pulled the plug right away. I was like,
that's important too. That's a tactic too of just, if you are going to go down that way, get as much as you can for it. If your heart's not in it, use some brain tricks, use some logic to make sure that, all right, well, my heart's not going to be in this, but I'm going to get as much as I can for it. And these are all tactics. These are all things that it sounds like your organization is giving to vets on here. These are things you can do. These are tricks. These are the processes on how to do that you're not provided. And now the support structure to go along with it. So it's funny how many times we have these conversations with people and just how many parallels keep coming back to it's awareness in your mind and in your body, and then it's awareness in your knowledge, and then strength. So it's like so knowledge and strength are, in my opinion, learning. It's once you are aware of everything, it's building upon that awareness. Whether it's the thoughts that you're having or the movements that you're doing, and then applying that to what you want to do with your life.
Totally. And I think a lot of people get stuck in the self-doubting, mindset where it's like and I was guilty of it. And that's why I was even entertaining taking that job, because it's like, I don't know if I have the creative juices or like just the wherewithal to build my own deal. Like, I don't know if I have it in me to create this huge like community and like whatever. I don't know if I can do it. All these self-doubting beliefs of like what I was capable of. And I really had to sit with myself on that and be like, why, what's up with it? Where does that come from? Where is that coming from? Where are those self-limiting beliefs coming from? And like I said, like having that community with Shems and whatnot has been a huge like shift for me, like huge shift, because it's like, dude, like now I have like all these resources to go to and like kind of bounce like where I'm feeling out on, be like, hey, this is how I'm feeling about this. Like, what do you guys think? And I get like awesome feedback. It's the same way that MoveU has done the same thing, in a different way. Like it's more about like the thing I loved that I resonated with Mike so much on was that he talks a lot about the body mechanics, but there's so much about mindset.
Yes.
That's like, and I'm like, dude, I love it. This is awesome. And so that's why, like, initially, I think, like, why we were in alignment completely, like, right from the start. So, anyhow.
Great. So, when are you climbing Kilimanjaro?
Kilimanjaro will happen within a year, and that's it's definitely, like I said, it's not off the table. The thing is that after talking with Mike, after getting kicked in the nuts by Mike, I started like rethinking it and stuff like that, and it almost feels like, have you ever seen that movie Into the Wild?
Yes.
Yeah. So like, at the
That's not
very
the
end of
first
the
time that's been brought up on this podcast.
yeah. So like, he talks about like happiness is best shared. You know, so like, if this is this personal endeavor that I want to go on and like just to say that I did it, to say that like I'm not like my body, like I'm not my disability, I'm not my diagnosis, like I can do all this stuff, that's great. But like, what if I can get other people to go with me? What if I can get other people that are kind of been struggling with some of the same things that I have, that I can relate with, and like build a community around this hike of Kilimanjaro and make it like just a group thing, you know? And so like that's kind of where my mind is right now on that, is like getting together with other adaptive athletes, you know, amputees, like other people that like are refuse to like buy into their diagnosis or what the doctors tell them what their capabilities are, and get them to go do it with me and kind of have it as this like triumphant moment for all of us.
That's incredible.
And share that moment with people, because I think if it was just me going with a couple buds, like it would just be, you know, like an ego-driven type deal. You
It's
know?
almost like selfish versus sharing, and that's what I took from that movie, from Into the Wild. It was like that whole thing was just him being selfish almost,
right,
and then regretting it.
Yep. So I want to share. I want to share that triumph. I want to share that overcoming, you know, of you know, limitations, and you know, just showing people like what's possible. You know, not just for me, but for other people that are going to be on that hike with me. So I would love. I've talked to Mike a little bit about it, but like getting some guys from the MoveU team to go.
Sign me up. I want to do it. I want to do it.
Getting the community together to do it together, because I think like it would just be so much more beautiful that way, you know? So that's kind of my intention right now. So I want to do it within a year. If it doesn't happen within a year, I'm not going to be broken up about it, because it might take some planning when you have a bunch of people going.
But it'll be way more valuable now whenever it does happen.
Totally. And then it's shared across like not just my platform, but MoveU's platform, this person's platform, that platform. So like it sends these like amazing ripples out into the world of like, dude, this is what's possible, man. Like not only what's possible like physically, but like look at this community of people that are all supporting one another, you know? So
I love that. Yeah. I mean, it really sounds like you've truly found your why. Like, why are you here? And you've used all these experiences in the past and kind of done that like self-discovery process, and you're here to help other people, to help them see those possibilities that they can create for themselves. Absolutely. And bring everybody together for this amazing thing.
Yeah, man,
it's awesome.
Let's make it happen.
That's the name of this podcast, is What Moves You. And this story, this last hour, was the things that you've gone through that have taught you what does move you. What are your passions? What jobs you say no to? What jobs that you're like, no, I'm moving towards this because this serves me and others, rather than this serves me and my salary and that. It's just like, this is obviously the path I want to be moving towards.
Yeah, I want to move toward the path of empathy and away from the path of judgment. And that's kind of like, I had a lot of judgments, you know, about like how people were doing things and feeling sorry for themselves and whatever. And it's like, I'm over that. You know what I mean? Like I'm moving toward like a path of empathy and being like, I understand where you're coming from. I want to help you to like reach your goals.
Moving to better things.
Yeah, totally.
Sweet. So let's real quick shout out just everything else, all the things, the podcast.
Totally. So you can find me at @gettingreal_ on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook page. You can look me up as Josh Boyer on Facebook. You can probably find me there. My podcast is Getting Real with Josh Boyer. That's on every podcast platform. Cool. So iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, all across. I will be starting this community called LifeAfterServing. That should be dropping in the next couple weeks. We're in the process of building that out right now, so that we're super, super pumped about it. And then you could also check out Shem's Hartwell. That's another one I want to shout out for sure. Because
and that's called
Empowered Loving and the Men's Passage. There's a
Passage.
Men's Passage that's an online course that he's releasing that starts, I believe, on October 17th. through December 22nd. I may have those dates wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's right.
And I'll put all the links for all of this into the show notes into.
So I highly
on our
recommend
website.
people signing up to that Men's Passage if you're open to it. It's an online course. You meet once a week, and it's just another way to support one another. And it's been a huge help to me to kind of finding my passion and purpose. So yeah,
Great.
that's it, man.
Well, this was awesome. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, this was a good one. Appreciate it, man.
For sure, brother. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for coming down, and we'll have some fun tomorrow at the Muver event.
Absolutely, brother.
All right, everybody.
Thanks,
We'll be
guys.
signing off. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. Those the 5-star reviews that you guys are writing are incredible. Just super appreciate it. We give you a little hint. Keep listening after the music today. Thank you for listening to another episode of the What Moves You podcast. If you are hearing this, you are one of the lucky ones because we have decided to give our listeners who get to the end of our episodes a little bit of a thank you for supporting the podcast and listening to it. You guys have been rating and reviewing us, and we're getting great feedback on it. So we just want to make sure that we're doing something on behalf of our listeners. So, moving forward, listeners of the podcast will be getting 10% off merchandise on our website at MoveU.com. If you look on our homepage, you'll find the merch button to click on, and be sure you enter the code podcast in capital letters, all caps, all the big ones. You're screaming. But what's really the big deal is, merch is cool, and we appreciate any support that you show us in the gym and whatnot, but we really want to help you guys out. So anyone who isn't already a member of the MoveU program, of the MoveU method, we are going to give you a code that gets you $100 off lifetime access of the program. The code for that is podcast, lowercase though, okay? So it's a little quieter. So just the podcast is the code for 10% off merch, caps, and $100 off lifetime access to the MoveU method is podcast, all lowercase. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. Love you guys.